Welcome back to the Above Average Podcast. Today we are joined by a real American hero. We haven't had one of those on this podcast. Ethan Merritt. He's here today to kind of talk about an app that he's working on along with some of the other things. Before we get into all that, though, we're going to kind of get to know you a little bit. I know you and I have talked previous to the podcast. Talked a little bit today. It's the first time I've met you. I know Will knows you better than I do, so... But I think our audience, our loyal 300, almost 300 subscribers, very cozy. Definitely want to get to know you a little bit and your background, and then we'll get into the app.
All right, let's get into it. We got to do the juice sponsor first, because I'm dying to try one of these, by the way.
Yeah. So, as you can tell, Ethan's a little bit more of a pro at hosting. He's probably going to take over my sponsor. But yeah, shout out to 111 Juice Bar. They got us some more juice this time. I don't listen to direction well. We were supposed to drink these on the podcast. I started a little early. It's delicious. Again, I think Will is picking on me. Last time it was the fat burner because I was chubby. Now I got the pink lady.
Yo, it doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter.
The pink lady.
You just can't
You
win.
picked it.
I did not. What did I say?
You told me to make the decision, so you chose the decision.
No. What did I say?
You know, I'm going to play Switzerland on this one. I think you wanted the big lady in the middle.
See? Yep. But it's delicious, isn't it? That's all that matters.
It is good. I mean, for the views.
I had peaches and cream. It is fantastic. Will, good suggestion. I don't know what pumpkin seed milk is. Milk with a Y. It's pretty solid.
They've got like a vanilla milk and a chocolate milk, and there's a strawberry too, but it's pumpkin seed milk. And
That's wild.
there's like, it has protein in it. I don't know how many pumpkin seeds it takes to make one thing of that, but
You can truly milk anything, you know.
yeah.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Like, we got almond milk, we got all these different kind of milks,
Right.
But milk has to come from.
Make milk.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's probably like it's like a vegan milk, but
Then it's not milk.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
Is anybody familiar with Lewis Black?
Yes.
No.
You know what skit I'm talking about.
I'm not on that one.
If you're not familiar with Lewis Black, I need everybody to go watch Lewis Black's skit on milk, almond milk, soy milk. There's no soy. I'm not going to say because maybe some kids watch, but so it can't be milk. What's in the bottle?
It cannot be milk. It cannot be milk. But it's good. This stuff is delightful.
No, it's so good. Yeah. Everything they have is great.
On milk. So let's get down to it. Keep it moving. So yeah, Ethan, let's get a little bit into your backstory. I know you were an athlete in high school, a little bit post high school.
Yes. Yep.
Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so I've been athletic and an athlete competing since legitimately like my oldest memory. I was a gymnastics athlete from the ages of like 4 till about 14, and then I switched over to diving in high school on the varsity team in high school, and then over to collegiate diving. That's springboard diving for those of you who are assuming that I'm like an underwater diver. This is springboard diving, competitive springboard diving, and high diving. The high diving end of this too was slightly different. It was actually for stunt shows. So I'd done kind of a range of getting paid to do my sport, doing it for fun, doing it collegiately, doing it at a national level. And I mean, that's been my life, doing a year-round sport since the age of 4 up until, halfway through college.
I was super curious though, when it comes to diving, what kind of work from a training standpoint goes into? You think you just jump off a platform?
Yeah,
There you have it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of mental work. It's extremely stressful to dive because, one small mistake is seen by a lot of people, completely silent on the pool deck. You have to get through X amount of dives and then that's it. There's no redos on any of these. There's no like doing another play to try to catch up on points. There's like nothing. So in terms of like the athletic side of it, I think a lot of people don't really know where it's at. They said, oh, you can flip really fast, you can spin. It's a lot of being aware of yourself in the air, aware of your body and your movement. So being more like into something like CrossFit or HIIT workouts or body weight exercises, lots of calisthenics is generally speaking what yields to being a good diver outside of just doing like monotonous types of repetitions. Like doing every dive, 5 reps of each dive in the morning, 5 reps of each dive at night. That was my workout, all the time, just to get yourself not only like in shape physically, but get yourself consistent on exactly what you have to do.
Yeah, I'm sure, because you did gymnastics for a while, I'm sure that set you up.
That did. Yeah, that did. That's like the cheat mode for diving. Like if you want to be a diver or if you want your kids to get into diving, just put them in gymnastics first. They'll learn how to work their body, how to do strength and conditioning at a younger age, their flexibility. And then you got to try to get over the challenge of getting them to land upside down all of a sudden, which was, the hardest part for divers to learn if you're coming from gymnastics background. But
because you just land on your feet.
You learn how to land on your feet. And then in the water, you're like, all right, I got to land on my head. Most dives go under your head. I mean, the diving list has the ability to do feet first entries, but the problem is for the sport of diving, for you to score higher, you need to do what's called like a rip entry on the water. So there's a way you put your arms together and you punch a hole through the water and you're pushing air down and letting your body go through. That's harder to do consistently with your feet. It's possible, but it's harder. And then on the other end of the spectrum for actual high diving, which is above 10 meters. So collegiate diving, Olympic diving is springboard 3 meter and then platform 10 meter. And then above that is called high diving, which is technically a separate sport, but they do feet first entries at that point because it gets too dangerous to go head first at 100 feet, Yeah.
So, I guess when it comes to your athletic background, I guess that kind of what made you, I talked about being a real American hero. What I mean by that is
the bold statement.
The military background that you have. How did that kind of what got you interested in getting and enlisting and enjoying the military?
Yeah, so it was a really transitional time for me. I think a lot of guys go through this when they're younger. I think both you or all three of you could probably attest to like you kind of go through a transition when you're like a little out of high school. You don't really know what you want to do.
Yeah, you realize you're not going pro.
You realize you're not going pro. Like you might have sort of like some parts of your life put together, but I think a lot of young men kind of struggle through like figuring that out. I feel like girls tend to find it sooner. Guys kind of start college or they drop out of college early or whatever. And it's pretty common. Like most of the guys I know from the first year of college, I don't know who they are anymore because like most of them didn't show up again or they started doing other stuff or they got in trouble. So I had this period about halfway through college where I was getting burned out on the sport I was in because I've been competing for so long. I kind of saw the light at the end of the tunnel was, I'm not good enough to be in the Olympics. I would say I was probably like maybe top like 50 in the country or whatever at best on my best day ever. And so college was going to end in 2 years and I didn't really have a plan. I didn't go to college for college's sake. I went to college for the experience and the sport and I did not go for education. I didn't really think further beyond that because my life was set up to be an athlete every day based on just kind of like my family, our background. So I started to dig into like what I wanted to do with my life. Started to like think a little bit more about it. And the military was like a little bit out there in space of like maybe, but I looked into the ROTC program, college I was at, and inquired about it, thought this might be a good option because then, hey, at least after college, I know the next 4 years I have a job. I didn't even know what kind of job I wanted. I was like, this will get me going somewhere, no intention of a life career, just like, what's the next journey going to be?
So for those at home that may not know what ROTC program is, what is that specifically? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's like the Reserve Officer Training, candidacy program that they have where you're in college and you're training as a cadet to go into the military. And what you're doing is you're commissioning into a branch of the military. So there's a ROTC program for all of the branches. Not every school has all of the branches, but there is one for every branch. You do training while you're at school. You do training in the summertime, depending on like what you're doing. And the goal is, when you're done with college, you're going to go into being an officer in the reserves, the National Guard, or go on to active duty.
Hit the wrong button. We're good.
No, you're good.
Did that last time too, I think, but it's my watch.
But you'll just go into the military in some capacity as an officer. So you do training, become an officer, and then you like compete within the cadet world to get your branch, and then you go into that as a job. So I have, thought to myself, like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I couldn't dive anymore. I mentally couldn't get past certain hurdles with it. Like, I wasn't afraid of diving. I just getting burned out. And the sad part was I was still getting better. I just mentally was every month that last year, I just was like, I'm so close. I just want to be done. And I wanted to win nationals that year so then I can check that off my list and be like, I am done. I have a reason to like get out, pull the ripcord. So I looked in that program, and was able to get a scholarship. And so that's kind of what led me to at least figuring out the other part of my life I'd kind of never looked far into.
Yeah. You know what's funny about that is like I've never ever thought about the fact, just the idea of like not knowing what you want to do. And just generally, like even from like, I mean, talk about it from a male perspective, but hearing you say that, I realized that that's exactly what happened to me too. Like I went to college to play soccer. I knew in high school, I was like, whatever school I go to is where I'm going to play at. Like, I don't even know what I want to major in. Yep. I was undecided until I was a junior. I picked political science for some dumb reason, and then still don't know what I'm going to do with that. And then it's like, okay, do I get out of college to play pro? And then I end up taking my 5th year. Now I'm going to be a teacher, and I'm not doing that either. And then professional career is not going to happen. And that was all I had. It was like, that was it. And then the next thing was coaching. And so I did that. Yep. And then personal training. Like there was never a plan. Like it was always a plan to have no plan. Or actually, maybe I didn't even have a plan to have no plan. I just had no plan.
And it is common. Like, I think it's really common with guys. I think guys kind of struggle to figure out what they're going to do. And I admire guys that know it. And then also I question it. I'm like, how do you know? Because I've changed my route a few times, not even a crazy amount, but I've changed it a couple times. So I had big periods of just not really knowing. And I think that's okay because you got to figure it out.
I think so too. I mean, I'm like a completely different person than I was in college even. And then you talk about high school beyond that. I mean, dude, I had black earrings all through college. Like I was like,
let's bring that back.
I was a Warped Tour kid, man. Yeah. I was
a Warped Tour kid too.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Did you go to the last one?
I know. I couldn't go to the last one.
Where did you go?
I went like 2008, 2009.
Oh, those are the golden years. This guy over here. Act like you wouldn't go to Warped Tour. You listen to Blink?
Yeah, now. Like,
now. Blink here. I went to Blink here. It was fantastic.
Oh, yeah. It's a Turnstile, too.
Dude, it was so sick.
They're so sick. Yeah.
I have a very eclectic taste in music, but I was never, like, so far one wavy. Never.
Yeah, I was an emo boy.
I listened to everything.
Still am.
Still am.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think I'm the only one in this room, including I'm the camera that doesn't have a college degree.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
I haven't gone that far in my story. I didn't graduate.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah,
you have to be an officer, by the way. So that was part of this. Yeah. So you have to get your shit down.
I'm not a police officer because I never had college. So,
okay.
Yeah, I went for like 2 years and like got a job with a retailer. I can make a lot of money with that retailer. Never look back. Get hooked in, go to the school of banking. That's kind of where I've been. Yeah, and to your point about I'm not having a plan, I just got a job while I was going to college, which was online school with University of Phoenix.
Yeah.
I just got that job because I thought it was going to hold me over unloading trucks, and 16 years later, I'm still with the same company, and yeah. So to your point of not having a plan and just going with the flow. And changing your mind about a bajillion times. Yeah, I get it. So
it happens. And I think it's a good part. I think it's a good part to learn and grow and figure it out.
Yeah.
So, and I think your situation kind of helps mold and shape that because, and I think that's the best way to go about it is to take risks, fail fast, and kind of grow from that. So
absolutely,
that definitely has helped shape me, get me where I'm at so far. So.
But aside from all that, getting back into you, so you in college, joined the military, and then kind of walk us through kind of your military career.
Yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand with the rest of college because I, not being focused on school, my GPA wasn't phenomenal. So when they're like, hey, your GPA matters for the job that you want to do, I was like, okay, so I need to consider what is a good job? What is a good GPA? And the thing was, they're like, okay, like here are some job options. You start learning about your jobs. Like what options are there as an officer? Like what kind of things could you do? What sounds cool? Like you go to camps in the summer, you learn this, you do cadet training. They make it all fun and games. Like they make it a good time to learn, even though it's still the Army. And I was like, you know what? I want to be a pilot because that sounded the most interesting, or I want to do the hardest job. So I asked somebody, I was like, what's the most competitive job and what's the hardest job? They're like, well, it's between being a pilot and the infantry. It goes back and forth depending on the year. And you might wonder, I know you're probably both thinking like, you might know a couple guys that joined the infantry enlisted, right? Maybe not the brightest human beings. They're not exactly Harvard PhDs, right? So you're probably thinking, well, how is that the hardest job? It's because when you're an officer, you're in charge of the group. You know, you're in charge of the monkeys with the rifles. And quite literally, they need a person that's smart, that is smart and tough and physically fit to be in charge. So guess what? That becomes really competitive because you will not be putting a dummy in charge of a bunch of potential dummies doing a job that is high risk, low reward, right?
Sure.
So I was like, okay, so between piloting and doing that, and I went down the aviation route a little bit, then my young man ego got the best of me. And I was like, hardest job is the infantry. That seems like the toughest. That seems like the thing to do because you're on the ground, you're on the front lines. I'm going to do it. Go do that. That's exactly why I picked it.
I know that last 10 minutes, knowing a couple of military men in different branches just got really pissed off about qualifying them as a bunch of dumb idiots.
Or
yeah, monkeys with rifles, so to speak.
Well, and they'll take pride in it because if they're an infantry person, they're going to be like, yeah, you know, we being in the infantry are still the toughest people that we know. We're using our heads, right?
That's like, infantry's not hard. I'm in charge of $1 billion aircraft.
Flying is definitely going to be the harder school, but the most competitive to get in was that, and it is an extremely prideful job. I mean, we make a joke that there's infantry and support. Every other job supports you. Like, you are the person that wins the war, like, win that group, right? So it's really prideful. So it's like, it's funny that it's like got this kind of dichotomy of like, there are some like straight up aggressive dudes that we need in there, and then it's like low ASVAB score people. But at the end of the day, it's the most interesting, unique, and like tough community of dudes ever. I say dudes and women now. When I joined, there was not any women in the infantry. There is now. And it's, you know, it's one of those jobs that's like, you have to have an ego for it at some regard. And also it really sucks. Like, you try to talk it up because it's like cool and it's sexy, but I gotta tell you what, man, I pooped in the woods a lot. It's not that sexy. It's not that sexy. I've done that a lot, like probably hundreds of days worth of time in the woods training, you know. So we take pride in the fact that like your infantry or support, you're supporting us because we're doing the dirty work of that community.
Will's reaction to getting in the woods.
I've never shit in the woods. I've never shit in the woods. No, never.
You've never shit in the woods?
Never.
We can go do it today.
I feel like I should cross it off the list. I mean, no, there's people shit in the woods right down the street, but
how is it possible you've even as a child, never went camping or?
Never went camping. No, no. We used to play like airsoft in the woods, and like there was a couple of dudes that like took shits in the woods because we were in there all day, but I never did.
But I mean, I know the woods you're talking about. These residential.
Same woods. Well, no, I mean like those are slag dumps. Like I mean you're in there.
I mean,
but it's not like forest. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean my family wasn't. Like, you didn't camp. I'm like, what the fuck? We good? Oh. I could not imagine my parents putting up a tent. There's no way.
He loves you.
I do. I mean, I do. But like, they know it. Like they would agree with me.
There's like, I had not grown up specifically camping. I'd grown up being outdoorsy and athletic, but I mean, we spent day and night for several weeks at training. Like, you learn to live like in your surroundings, like hunting. Hunting and having like a beer or two and you're in a tree stand for like a day is like nothing compared to what we did. But I can relate to it, you know, like I can relate to doing those things. Right. And I do enjoy nature, but I gotta say there's growing pains with this, right? So like my girlfriend likes to go camping and she's like, we need to go camping. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. I will not go camping. But I've never gone basically glamping. Yeah. We have a good time.
You're chilling.
Yeah. And you have a good time because ours was like, you're staying overnight. I'm not going to shower for a week, you know, pretty standard. And then do missions all night, walk around and rock all day, you know, the whole 9 yards. So now I'm a little more accustomed to like, okay, this can actually be fun in nature and not just work, you know? So
literally going camping, like pitch a tent.
That was awesome. I would do it, man. Like I always look at like the tents that you can get on top of a Wrangler, and I think that's super cool. But
camping.
You'd buy it, use it once, and
that's what I mean. Like I'm not gonna buy one, and they're super expensive. They're like over $1,000. And I mean, I don't know. I'll buy a hammock.
It's insane. We went like 2 weekends ago. Took my boat, out the boat once, never took it back out the rest of the weekend. It was just too much of a pain in the ass.
Just dragging around.
But yeah, you gotta get camp.
I'll get there.
Yeah, just gotta go live a little, you know. Just go get a little rough out there.
Yeah, let's go get dirty. I'm down to do it. It's just never really come up.
Need to do it, film it, and get you shitting in the woods.
That'd be kind of funny, yeah.
Love that.
What did your training look like? How did that help mold your training being in the military? How did that help kind of mold what you do from a training aspect?
Yeah, it was, training I got into the infantry. I picked the National Guard because I was going to go into grad school. So it's one of those decisions where I'm like, maybe I should actually get a little more serious with school. So I thought, let's go into the National Guard. I can start my time there, and then I can get the job in the position I want a little easier because there's more openings, during the year that I graduated, which was good. So I decided to go in there, and that training was, the washout rate is, decently high. It's not like going to be like a Navy SEAL, but, because you're spending so much time in the woods doing like training exercises, and you have to keep up with being able to run and being able to ruck, it's a really big camaraderie school. It's treated like a gentleman's school. So like, have your weekends off, you have the ability to get in trouble, but you also have to come back and like really go to work. And I'm not going to say like going to basic training isn't hard. It's not comparable because we have to do homework assignments and learning and studying and then executing it and trading off in our positions to be like graded and evaluated. So you're traded off in the position of being a platoon leader or platoon sergeant to get an evaluation while you're there, which is kind of stressful because you'll do it under a week of no sleep and they say, you're in charge the next 24 hours. Here's your mission. Go hit this objective. It's 16 clicks away or whatever. Like, it starts there. And so you did that over and over and over again, which makes it more complicated, but it prepares you for Ranger School, and it prepares you to go to your unit where that's ultimately your job and your position. Whereas you don't need to learn how to hold the trigger and be the best shot on planet Earth, but that's part of it, but you need to get way more beyond that. And so I went through that. I did pretty good at that. I thought it was a really good time, actually, to be honest with you. I thought it was a fantastic time. And then there's a dog there.
Happened last time too.
I came back, and my unit, which hadn't deployed in a couple years, I came back within 6 months we were deploying. So I was one of the newest officers to my unit, and I was on the deployment cycle. I had a platoon. So 6 months later, for my job training, I was going. No grad school for me. I took 1 semester, then I was like, here we go. Did the pre-deployment train up, did all that thing, the whole works. It's like a whole process that you got to go through. And then, we were going overseas in 2016.
How long were you deployed?
Deployment itself is a year total with your training before and after, but you're there for about 9 months. Yeah.
And then you came back. Actually, you got back from deployment. What? And then, because you kind of alluded to, and we've talked, but alluded to how it set you up for Ranger School. So foreshadowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, after you got back and you went and tried Special Forces.
Yes. Yeah, correct. So I came back from that deployment. I wanted to get done with grad school. I thought in the back of my mind, I might go to Ranger School, which, just for all of the people here to know, that is just a school that's a leadership school. Anybody can technically attend in any of the services, not just the Army.
I'm an idiot.
I didn't know that.
But it's a big stepping stone to really get an idea of the training to go into a special operations unit. So if you're in Ranger Regiment, you are a Tier 2 operator. You have to go to Ranger School at a minimum standard. Everybody there has a Ranger tab. But anybody in the Army can get a Ranger tab. It doesn't mean you're doing the job of what regiment does, where they are like hidden houses, deploying every 6 months, like no joke stuff. So I was like, you know what? I want to do something when I get back. I wanted to get a little bit more out of my experience in the Army, especially as an officer, because you are slowly going to get more removed from being on the battlefield and being in the battle space. So I wanted to do a trial with Special Forces after I met some overseas, and I learned about their mission and what they do. And unlike going to the Rangers, which is like full-time job, full-time Army, there's actually Guard units that are SF and Green Berets. And their job is slightly different. It takes a little bit more finesse, you can say, in terms of the special operations community, because they have to go through training to be embedded in a country, in an area, in a village, by themselves in a group of 12 people for the better part of 6 months to a year at one time. Mm-hmm. And their job is to get to know the area, to get to learn what's happening, and to build up a fighting force, if need be, to help with our allies against a common enemy. Mm. That is their job. So they're not just kicking down doors, doing the cool guy thing, but they're actually doing a serious amount of work locally and culturally and around the world. These are constantly happening. And so I really like that mission because I thought it was a more, I think, less direct approach to war, but more of a strategic approach when you look at stuff like Afghanistan and Iraq, where you want to try to get to know people in the culture to make the right kind of decisions. And those were the guys influencing that from what I had seen and learned. So I wanted to go through that tryout. And that was where, my life started taking a little bit of a pivot from I'm just getting entry level into the Army to where I need to start physically training and mentally preparing to do something that is 1% of 1% of people do at best. Within the military, 1% or 1% of people in the military can be an officer and a Green Beret. I mean, this is like a no joke job. So that is kind of where I started transitioning into being like, let's take the Army a little more seriously. Let's look into what these options really mean and kind of learn as much as you can about it. And there's a lot of ups and downs in that world. I got the chance and the ability to go train and do a tryout. And that is as far as I got. So we can continue on with that one if you want to learn more, or we can pivot over to what I was doing after.
Yeah. So were you talking about going into the injury?
Yes. Yeah.
So, and I think that's important to talk about, because that's kind of because everybody's going to be like, what happened?
Exactly.
It's
just going to leave you all a cliffhanger right now.
Yeah, just leave us hanging, don't tell us anything, and it sounded juicy.
Yeah, so I had done this tryout, right, and I was going through a lot of life transition, like personally as well as professionally, and I went through a tryout and I did pass. So I started with 45 people in my class. We probably ended with, I think, 6 total, and I was one of 2 officers to even get a look that far. And so I was training with this unit on drill weekends, and they'd do 3 days of, we're going to test you and we're going to push your limits, and we're just going to kick you out along the way. So if you're not passing X, Y, or Z, if you're not doing X, Y, and Z to our standard, then you're going to get dropped. And it's a mental game. So when you go here, you're going through this process, and it's not like going to basic training. They say, hey, we have a whiteboard in the hallway. You're here for the next 3 days. Go ahead and check the whiteboard and you'll know what's happening next. We're in a room with people just like, the hell does that mean? What does that mean? And they'll change the whiteboard with instructions, things that you have to do, things that you're expected to do at random times. So you kind of always have to have somebody on call checking the whiteboard, making sure that people know what's going on. It becomes a mind game of like, they just test and watch you through a variety of things they put you through. It's not just going on a run. It's like, hey, you're going to go on a run and everyone's going to get tested, but we're not telling you we're testing you. And also you're going to have to do all these dumb things in between it that we're going to make you do. And it's going to be like seriously painful, but that's the test, not your run time. Like, how much do you put in as a team player when we're not telling you it's a team activity? You got to figure it out that it's a team activity. So it's another level of like psychology that they dig into for these jobs, because you're at such a high risk of a person that you could be in charge of, or high risk to yourself to be in charge of those kind of people, that everybody has to be on the same page, and you have to be a team player down to the last inch of what you got in you, so that other people around you are going to be okay, that they're going to be doing their job. So that experience was extremely eye-opening, and it was by far the hardest training I've done. And when they do those 3 days at a time, I left there in literally almost tears, could not walk to my car, got in my car and drove home, and I slept for 20 hours, just to give you an idea. Those 3 days nonstop of exercises, of working out, of teamwork stuff, of being out in the rain, being out in the snow, crossing a river in the snow. It was no joke, so it was really eye-opening, and I got the acceptance into it. But because some things were happening in my personal life, I asked them, I said, if I say no, what happens now? Could I come back and try again? They said, you can next year, but you're going to start over. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So I decided to walk away from that thinking, maybe I'll get my personal life, my career a little more established. I was 25 years old. Want to kind of get my life put together a little more, maybe go back and try out when I feel more prepared mentally and physically, to go down that job.
So, excuse me. So the kind of the special forces journey kind of ends there. And then is that where you started to get the idea for Pose?
Kind of. So coming off of doing that training, just to give you an idea, just to see how intense this sounds, Will, just correct me to see if this sounds like this might be overkill.
All right.
I was rucking with about an 80-pound bag twice a week. I was running 5 days a week, and I was lifting 5 days a week, and I would swim about 1 or 2 days a week. That was what I'd done to train up for this for 8 months.
Okay.
No time off in between any of this. So it might be a little bit overkill.
A lot.
It's a lot. But I did.
I ran a half marathon and needed this for like 2 days after that.
So that was the amount I was doing for, it was almost 8 months. I'd say I probably did about a 7th-month program to get myself in the best shape possible. So when I had stopped and I almost cold turkeyed most of that. I was like, I'm just going to lift and just run lightly. Like my body was just broken. Like it felt broken, but it didn't feel bad. I could like grab this bag and throw it on and walk 12 miles, no problems, you know, but I knew I needed to like kind of break. So when I started having to break off from this training, I started having problems with my back, and not things from like overlifting at the gym the next week. Randomly, I was getting some severe pain out of nowhere. And I was like, this wasn't happening in all this training, right? I never had a back problem. I could lift anything. I could run as far as I needed to. Nothing. I ended up going to the doctor. They're like, you have hairline fractures on your spine. You have 2 bulges disc and a nerve pinch in your sciatic nerve. So you like your S1 area, all of that. And I was like, what? How is this happening? Like, how is this even possible that I did all this training? And they said, well, the muscles in your back were holding it together, but you were causing injuries, but you were like maintaining that structure from like your back muscles. And the fact you haven't bulged the disc more was like, you could have just had an awkward movement and done it, but the bulge doesn't necessarily mean it hurts. You probably made it worse. You probably redid it. But in general, I never had a direct injury. I had like stress fractures like all the way through this training at some point. And I probably had it before too, because I'd been in the Army for at least 4 years at this point.
So like I as you're talking and you're going through everything that's body through, you know, fitness, general, over my short amount of time in the fitness world is recovery is the most important part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no opportunity to recover in that environment. So no wonder that your body was in the shape that it was in, because you didn't have, you couldn't, and you didn't give time body to recover, or your body time to recover.
And like, it sounds bad, and people don't talk about this part enough. So I want to hear your guys' opinion on this, but genetics make a factor. There are people that went through that course and got out of it and have done harder things since then that do not have these problems. Like, I genetically am not big enough to be carrying weight like that all the time. Like, it was proven because I hurt myself doing it, because there was nothing I did like structurally wrong, a direct injury, you know? So I think that does play a factor. Like, if you want to get to the next level of these jobs, like not everyone can be in the NBA or play professional sports. No shit, not everyone can do this job either. There's still a genetic component. No matter how hard you work, you can mentally be there, but the minute you start breaking your back, like, the cards are like completely off the table.
Yeah, I'm 5'7", and Tim's on a good day standing straight up and down, and there's no shot I was making the NBA. I don't care what kind of mugsy this madness you gave me.
Yeah, no, that's true. The genetics conversation is always a tough one, because I
know you feel a little bit differently about it.
I do a little bit, but I do know there's a limit, and like there is, you know, and especially like the professional sport example is the easiest one. You know, like I'm not going to play in the NBA. I mean, I'm not going to be a professional goalkeeper, and I knew I could have gotten on a team, but am I going to go play for the national team at 5'7"? No, like that's just not going to happen. But, you know, listen to your point about just talking about the volume of what you did, you know, running every day and doing the 80-pound ruck and stuff like that. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, and I want to make sure I said this the right way, but like, I mean, all anything is adaptation, you know, and I think a large majority of people could do that. Not saying that it's easy, but just that speaks to what your body is capable of, you know. And I think I'd never been one to set like a ceiling for myself. I'm always like, you know, if I want to go deadlift 500 pounds, like I'll figure out a way to deadlift 500. Am I going to get 700? Maybe not. But like someone that's 6'5", 280 could probably deadlift 700, you know, relatively easily. That's probably more in the wheelhouse. But I don't know. I just am always careful with the genetics thing, because it is a real thing. There's definitely limits. But I feel that all too often, this is not what you're doing, but other people will not accomplish something and be like, oh shit, I just have shit genetics. And like, that's really not the case. You just got to work hard.
Yeah. And I think it's a big cop-out sometimes. Like, I never thought it was a cop-out, because I was like, I know how the Army works operationally enough that I'm like, oh, I can tough out some stuff. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to keep toughing out. I'm going to keep toughing out. I'm going to keep doing it. And I got the acceptance to go into the 2-year program when I was like, I could do it. And then 3 months later, I had a back problem to the point where I couldn't walk. And I'm like, okay, well, I could do it.
Yeah.
But something is telling me this might not be
Yeah.
you know, the lifestyle my body can maintain as a career,
Right.
that's a big decision. But for someone to say, hey, you know, I just can't lose weight because of genetics, I'm like, well, let's look at the factors first.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
let's look at everything, because like I mapped out everything I possibly could, to the best of my ability with what I was given to train up for this. I was eating a shit ton of food, taking naps in my car, at work, at lunch, to then go back to the gym after work. I mean, I did what I physically could do against the odds of me being maybe not, you know, the right physical person to get past it. And, you know, who knows? I could have passed. I could have continued doing it. Maybe I would have had a problem. They could have fixed me. Who knows? But
I mean, those are
I decided not to take the risk.
Yeah, significant structural injuries that you're not going to just like. I mean, the fact that you worked through it as long as you did is crazy, and
Not the best idea.
yeah, no. But I mean, it's one of those things, and like with your back, the way that stuff works is you know, interesting, because like it can just hold things together so tight just to prevent you from feeling that pain. And then you also have the aspect of like your brain can shut off pain receptors, you know, after a certain point in time. Like there's cases with like patellar tendonitis. After a certain point, your brain is gonna stop signaling for pain because you're just too far gone. And at that point, then you have like serious like tissue breakdown and all that stuff. But I mean, that could definitely be something that happened at that point as well. Like, I mean, you're just so deep in it and you're used to doing what you're doing. You just didn't have the signals there.
Well, I think people got to look at their situation too and know to like push through. Like you got to know if you're hurt or are you injured. And you got to listen to your body.
There's a big difference there.
Yeah.
Is it uncomfortable or is it actual pain?
So like, you know, this is typically today, I'm working out, squatting, and I squat down, and as I'm coming up, like I feel just a little bit something in my knee wasn't right, and it hurt. But like after I racked the weight, walked around, kind of rubbed on it a little bit, it went away. So like I didn't injure myself. Otherwise, it would have been much different, probably more long lasting. Now, if I'd have dropped back down on the second time and felt the same pain, and I'm like, let's think about this for a minute before we blow an ACL.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a delineation between being hurt and needing to push through and push yourself and being injured. And I think people need to understand the difference, and they need to push a little harder in some cases.
Yeah. I think in most cases, people could push a little harder.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's far-fetched to say it, you know? But again, it's funny because as you get older, like you notice these things more, and you've learned more from possibly injuries or from gaining the mental fortitude to be able to get past things. Like I wish I was mentally as tough and aware, and then apply it to when I was 21, I'd be unstoppable.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's funny because I tell Will all the time, I am in the best shape of my life that I've ever. I was a 2-sport athlete in high school, played a little bit post school, like never collegiately, but like still played at a competitive level. And if I would have known then what I know now, I would have played at a high level college because I was just natural. I played baseball. And I was just naturally good at it, but I never worked at it. I never spent any time in the weight room. I never spent any time doing any cardio. Like it was just, I showed up on a diamond. We went to practice twice a week and practice for 2 hours, and that was it.
Right.
And it was just natural ability. If I would have worked at it, I could. Now I'm not Dominican. Probably wouldn't have made it very far. You have an OB. You can clip that. But just in general, like I'm not saying I would have went pro or anything like that, but I would have definitely played at a higher level if I would have worked at it. Like I work harder in the gym now at 34 than I did when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. Because the difference now, because I've tried to get in shape, but the difference now, you know, I talked a little bit about this, quit going into the gym with an ego.
Yep.
I started listening to my body. If something got hard, I knew when to push, but I also knew that like if I was trying to just ego lift.
Dangerous, man.
Yeah.
It's dangerous, dude.
And you can get discouraged because you're trying to lift with your ego, and you can't lift as heavy as you want to with your ego, or you can hurt yourself.
Yeah, and anyone who knows what they're doing is looking at you like, hey, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, and you look like an idiot.
Yeah, and that's hard because I've had that reaction to people, but then my second reaction is always like, well, maybe they actually don't know what they're doing, or they're like very new to the game, or whatever it is, and you see people now, like, here's the guy on TikTok, Joey Swole. You ever seen that guy?
Yes.
Massive. And, like, he's doing a good thing with what he's doing, like his reaction videos and stuff. And I think he's, like, tackling that stuff head on. But it's crazy because you see people like that, and it's like, has no one ever said anything? You know, like, you've never slowed down and maybe think one time or what, you know, or watch somebody else even.
But some of the I see people at the gym, and they're big. They're cut up, you know what I mean? They're you could tell they've been in the gym a bunch. But, like, and I've said this to you, like, they're lifting. I'm like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Stop. But I'm not going to say anything to you because obviously you've got results.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's right, but, like, that's wrong. You're doing curls and it looks like you're working on your back.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Not good.
But, like, at that point, but then I go, well, maybe you just know something I don't.
Right.
Because something's working for you. You're jacked, but that looks wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, like, always good to give people the benefit of the doubt, I think, but.
And I would never say anything.
Well, and, you know, like, again, like, as guys, like, you've probably been there. Like, I look back and I'm like, okay, I mean, I didn't really start lifting until I was, like, 20, which means most of my diving career, I was, like, just diving and thinking that's all I need to do. I didn't have a very good, like, hurdle on the board. I didn't weigh a lot either. So, like, my strength to go up in the air was shorter than, like, my friends in high school, but I could get consistency better, so I outscored them, right? But, like, damn, if I would have done some weightlifting, just some squats, like, not even heavy, just to get, like, that form, work on power, doing, like, a squat into a jump into some sort of step-ups, like, those kind of exercises, I think that could have taken me to, like, the next spot as well at that time of my life. And then, of course, college, you just drink a lot.
Yeah.
You have a lot of fun. And you're like, okay.
I mean, I worked.
Well, you know, like, are you really, you know, was I really trying? I made practice almost every time at 5:36 in the morning, even if I did go out the night before. But, man, that recovery I had was unreal. I would kill for that now. Not possible. Not possible. Nope.
I told the story before on the podcast, but I turned 30 and I was playing baseball competitively. And it had been the first time I played baseball in years. And third game, running from first home, I rounded third and quad went from ice cold to, and I scored. I went behind the dugout and I'm trying to roll my quad out with a bat. Just had no idea what was wrong. And like an idiot, you know, I didn't stretch before the game or anything. I'm just like, I'm going to get back into this like I'm 20 years old. It's going to be no problem. But
his final words.
So I ended up going to the ER. And I had a grade 2 strain in my quad. Could barely put any type of pressure on it. And I had physical therapy for the first time in my life. And the physical therapist is like, what happened? What were you doing? I was like, you hit hard? And yeah.
30 gets real.
Yeah.
I'm 31. I started having injuries more and more.
Don't recover like you used to.
No, you don't.
That's my fear.
Enjoy those last couple of years.
Oh, I'll enjoy them. But, like, I'm going
This young buck over here.
doing stuff. I went and played wiffle ball last night, and it was awesome. But I was, and I'm only going to say this because this is what they told me. They said I'd be the most athletic one there, and I was. But I was, like, running out singles, and I got thrown out a couple of times. Like, there was a dude at shortstop, an absolute cannon, throwing foam balls third to first. And, you know, I was watching everybody else, and I know other people too that are, you know, were athletes in high school, and then, you know, they take like 5-6 years off, and then they come out and tear their ACL. And that, to me, like, just the idea of having an injury like that that's going to put you out for a year. Like, I know someone that just tore his Achilles playing, like, Turkey Bowl on Thanksgiving. That's a year. Like, you have surgery, you're in a boot.
That hurts.
To do that at this age. Yeah, because, like, when you're a kid, like, you have a year-long injury, like, yeah, it sucks. Like, it's not a good time, but you don't have any other obligations. You know, when you're an adult and you get injured like that is a severe hindrance into your everyday.
Or being an adult with 3 kids.
I see, that's what I mean. Like, I'm not even touching that, but, like, that's got to be so hard to deal with. And so, in my mind, like, I mean, I don't sprint like I used to. I don't, like, cut like I used to, but it's always in my head because, like, I need to do that because if I forget about it and then go play a sport or do something where I think I still have it and something happens, I'm going to be so mad at myself.
That's my biggest concern every time I get down into a squat is, like, are one of these things going to let go? ACL, MCL?
Technically, you should be fine. Should be. Long fine. Yeah, there's no reason why anything bad should happen as long as you're.
Don't say that I'm 34.
Right.
Everything bad could happen.
I don't know. Age is a choice.
He says that until he hits 30. Then he'd be like, damn.
Age is a choice. I don't. What?
I just mean
I
I've never.
identify as 21-year-old.
Yeah, I've never felt older than 22. So I think.
Okay, truth be told, I don't feel like I've aged more than 25 until this year I started feeling the physical a little bit more than I thought I
I
would.
feel like I Benjamin Buttoned it.
No, that's a good.
Hell yeah.
You know, I think it's
Age is a choice.
like fair point,
To my point.
but time is constant.
Yeah. Well, you can't do anything about it. So why even think about it?
Why is the ambulance here?
I don't know.
Those lights were.
Had to have been the 34-year-old over here just getting crushed.
I heard my knees crack when I sat down. But yeah, I mean, to a point, I think age is a mindset. We'll say.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
I won't say
Yeah.
it's a choice because you damn sure don't recover like you used to. I don't
Yeah.
care what kind of shape you're in.
Yeah. Yes.
The older you get, the more you have to do to recover.
No, that's true. I agree with that. And
My sleep is better than yours.
your sleep is much better than mine. I see you got a Whoop on there. We both got Auras.
You need to get in our circle.
You guys track your sleep?
You get in-
Yeah.
I have one of those. I switched to Whoop intentionally because I couldn't do gym stuff with that, and I was
Right.
tracking everything.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure I could track everything.
Yeah.
However, I'm getting back into jujitsu, which is also terrifying at 30. And I have to take this off. So,
I know where you do that. I've always wanted to do that.
do you want to come to Stout with me?
Where?
Stout in the Strip District.
Oh, see, I always wanted to do that. I live in Nerville. But
Okay.
I always wanted to do that one in Nerville.
I know the guy there. We'll chat after this.
You should do it.
I would do it.
That'd be sick.
I love like getting off track. My biggest thing is I love rolling around wrestling, and I never wrestled, but I loved like wrestling, and I'm a ground and pound kind of guy because I'm short.
All right.
I'll suck up a few blows to the head, but I'm gonna get inside and
I got
leverage.
Oh, you will.
No, sir.
All right.
Why are you crying?
My mind was somewhere else that whole time. What are you saying?
After Hours podcast was coming out just a little bit.
Was there alcohol in this? The pink lady?
Oh, Jor? I got it from Jor today. I'll ask him. I don't think so.
Oh, I don't even know what happened there. Anyway, jujitsu.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
My third class going, I got my ass tossed by a girl who's about 90 pounds.
Yeah.
She's a blue belt, she's been doing it for like 2-3 years, which is probably like 2 years, let's say. She just, the first time I was like kind of going lighter, just naturally, just like, well, I don't need to muscle it.
Yeah.
She's small, like I don't want to muscle things. And then I tried to a little bit more because she tapped me, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I need to give it more energy, like from the very few things I learned, or the few things I learned, wrap me up, dude. Like it was nothing. I was like, okay, I need to learn this. This girl just kicked my ass in about a second.
I've always wanted to do like just going to my ass.
Oh, dude, it humbles you because it makes it like if you want to talk about like getting your ego crushed, like if you think like, oh, things are frustrating, things are annoying, go there and you'll come out of there being like, all right, things are fine. Just like things are a little happier. You're like, all right, kind of glad to be out of that class. I got my ass kicked. Let's go drive home and not yell at cars and traffic. You know, you're just like, woo, feel better.
That's something I'm missing, man, because I feel like anything combat relate, like boxing, anything like that is so good for you just for that reason alone. Like, and just the fact that just feeling confident in a situation, if you're ever put in a situation where you have to defend yourself, like that's something that no one does that. Like no one cares for that.
Yeah. And for that sport specifically too, sport is geared towards, being able to be a smaller person and have control over a bigger person that is not trained. Whereas most other sports are pretty equal in weight.
Right.
But for jiu-jitsu, it was originally made for being able to street fight and control somebody. And it's proven that you can be small and take out somebody bigger like nothing. Now, if they're also trained, then it's different. But if you're a blue belt going into being a purple belt, so about 3 or 5 years experience, 99% chance you'll be fine in a street fight because you can control it no matter how big the guy is.
Yeah.
Which is good to know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem though is nobody fights fair and with their
No.
So that's the biggest concern. I want to do it for a little of that purpose because you get confidence.
Yeah.
But it would be more for the workout. That would.
It is a cardio hit workout. It is like it's brutal. It's brutal. But I think just knowing how to hold on to people, do different kind of things with your own body is like really really good. So I'm slowly trying to get back into it. I have hurt myself there before, so you got to be a little careful because when you're a white belt going against another white belt,
Hold it up like a pretzel.
well, they don't know what they're doing either, so that's why it's sort of like a touch and go. So like I would rather roll with somebody more experienced because they're like, well, they know pressure, and a new guy like you might be really strong. He doesn't know pressure though. So there's always that little boundary, just like kind of coming in and like take it easy with people, you know. But these classes are set up in a way that you shouldn't get hurt. I was also fighting a wrestler the last time I went, so I hurt myself because he was really good, and I was like, man, this guy's gonna get me. He was really good at takedowns, obviously. That's his bread and butter. So
I've also been interested in the Muay Thai striking. Anyway, we'll talk offline.
we will for sure.
So, talk through the military background, talk through all the athletics. We talked through everything, and it kind of, we talked about the ego lifting and how that can be bad for you. And in my opinion, ego lift can lead to some around bad form. And I think not only with ego lifting, but with form in general, it's something that I've tried to focus on as I got back into working out. I focused more on, am I doing this right so I don't get hurt, versus am I just trying to lift heavy weight and to show people how strong I am. And I know you're working on something right on the shirt there.
The right branding right here.
Co-founder of Pose. So why don't you tell us a little?
Yeah, so tying it to having this injury, I started to reevaluate, how I do training because I've never really been that injured before. And that was like kind of serious. I was like, my spine is something you don't want to mess with long term. Other injuries I think I could put off, not have a huge mental block or hurdle, but this kind of struck me as like, I need to make sure I don't do worse damage. Became friends with a guy named Andrew Grove, who's another co-founder. And when I moved, like 6 months into moving to Pittsburgh or less, we connected through Instagram, which is like how I've met half the people I know now here. Thank God for that platform when you're new to a city. I mean, it is great.
After this.
Yeah, you should follow both these guys, obviously, But, I had made some friends here and I started to shoot and I had like a clothing brand. I was kind of going down the rabbit hole, just like networking as I moved into the city. But I saw the benefit of what this guy was thinking of as an app idea. And he had an idea to have hardware that tracks what you're doing to learn how to lift. So his background, very high level briefly, is he was not athletic. He was learning how to lift in a gym and simply was just like, I don't understand how to squat. I wasn't really getting enough people to figure out how to do it correctly. So he's like, why don't we make a body tracking app that can check your form and give you the right feedback?
Sounds like a much smarter version of me.
It is. But
Hey, this guy.
yeah. But I mean, and a couple years ago, I wouldn't even say the words it was necessarily that pivotal. That thought had crossed a lot of people's minds in a variety of fields, but being to implement it was going to be the harder part. So we started getting to talking and we became good friends. And as we started to develop this relationship as friends, he was like, I would like you to get involved in marketing, but like, how much more would you want to get involved? And the same year that we met and started talking about this a little bit more seriously was the same year that the Army was changing the fitness test that it's had for about 45 years. It's changing it for the first time. It's including a deadlift. It's including a kettlebell throw behind your head. It's including a sprint drag carry with weight and a 2-mile run still. It's making it very diverse. So I told him, I was like, have you ever thought about going after the military market? Because I was still in the Army then. So we got a little bit more into that and we looked at options and I said, let's make software, not hardware. Let me be involved and I'm going to try to connect with you on the parts of the military and see if we could make that a client, because I saw his idea as an idea that could go really far in a couple avenues. And now here today, we're 2 years since the time that we had really started talking about this pretty seriously, and we currently have a team of 5 people that are together. One of them's not local, but the rest of us are local. And we have like a co-founder team, and we have a tech person that works with us, the CEO of TrueFit, which builds software in Pittsburgh. And we are currently in a low stage development right now of this app. So we have a demo that's testable, and you can see the results it's having on a 2D plane. And we're actually just about to implement 3D into this app, probably this month, which is really exciting.
So what does that mean when you say on a 2D plane versus a 3D plane?
Yeah, so with the good thing about these iPhones now is they do have, 3 cameras on the front of an iPhone, and one of them is like a LiDAR camera that's supposed to be able to sense the environment around you, not just take a photo, right? So that's one of the applicational aspects within the hardware for iPhones. So we thought, let's make software that can work off of LiDAR that can actually read you in a 3D space. So it knows how far away you are from the camera, and it knows different parts of you that might be that far away. So this tracks the body points on your body. It will know your hips are going to away from you in time and space when you squat, because your butt's going to go backwards. So if you have the camera straight on towards you, it's going to know you're further back. But first, we started to develop this on a 2D plane, which is just the camera. So it's where you are from what it sees, but it doesn't know where you are in time and space. So now this makes it far more accurate. So everything before this was a rep counter, tracks your body, knows what you're doing. This will actually give you the feedback on your form more accurately than the human eye, because it's going to keep machine learning aspect bits that will develop over time, depending on you as a person, but also depending on how many people we have on the network continue to provide it data.
Yeah.
So this ultimately is geared towards people to learn their form, a variety of exercises that we're going to program into it, and then have a programming ability so you can actually run a workout through it as well.
That sounds really cool.
It does sound really cool. It sounds way cooler than it is on the day-to-day. But when I say it, it sounds cool.
It sounds really cool, and really would take people a lot smarter than me to kind of come up with something like that. But no, that's really interesting. But one thing, that you touched on was that the military application and things like that you're trying to get involved with. What does that look like for like a normal consumer level?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the whole point of starting with it on a phone. So it is accessible. Like if you take a competitor like we have, like the Lululemon, the mirror they have in the store, that's accessible for everyone to use. But that price point is probably above the average price of the regular person to learn their form correction, to be able to provide themselves a workout, because most people own an iPhone. They don't own a phone. That's obviously one hurdle, but not everybody owns a mirror, nor can they afford one. Most people that go in that store can afford one, but the average person that we can be able to inspire to better what they do every day might not necessarily be able to afford that, or might not think that's a good option based on what they have to work with, based on their kids that have to go to school, based on the fact their job doesn't pay enough. It might not be that much of a priority, but their health still should be a priority. So that kind of is a stopping point, right? So we want to make it an affordable app that you're able to download as an individual person, that you're able to use wherever you go. And I think that ability to have an app that advanced, but in a good price point, has never been seen yet. And I think that's what is going to bring us to the market in a way that other people haven't been able to develop yet, because they haven't really thought about the consumer as the everyday person really needs better information and ways to do this, because you can't always afford high-tech stuff like a sports athlete can, or a personal trainer, which I think everybody could be able to budget for. Just a little call out for Will there. But as an additive, if you can only afford to pay a trainer once a month, what are you going to do the other 29 days of that month, or whatever it may be? You might want to look into some other options to assist with that process, to build yourself a better holistic way of being able to move and strengthen yourself and do it correctly.
Yeah, and the entrepreneurs, some in the room, some at home, and they're watching it. It'd be an awesome way for somebody like Will to use to help with their clients.
Well, we've talked about this already, yeah.
I know, but I'm trying to be a good host here. Okay,
No, you nailed it. But I mean,
we will have a trainer platform that will be able to assist people that are. I dropped something. The trainer part of the platform will be able to, help somebody that has clients that are training, and they can be able to look at their data in a profile way to say, okay, how's this person doing in their free time? You give them some homework assignment. You want to keep them accountable. You want to be able to message them back and forth as well. Do it through the app. Don't need to give out your cell phone number every time you have a client that's there, but you only see them once a week, once a month. You're able to look at what they're doing, and they come in and you've seen, damn, their squats or whatever part of the workouts lower than every other part. As a trainer how to optimize the time you have with them. Instead of the time that you might spend doing everything all the time, you can say, you just got to take their word for it. Sometimes you can look at it quickly, but if you only have half an hour to an hour, you want to hit the thing that they need the most first. And I think that's going to be really important for trainers and for sports teams and for the Army, super big in the Army, for people that are in charge of 12 people. Everyone's got to get through this test everyone's got to do this training, but that squad leader could look at everybody's stuff a little bit quicker, a little bit faster to give it up to their commander and say, here's why my group's not doing good. Like, we're overworked, we're overtrained, or we need to work on this more for X, Y, and Z reason.
That makes sense. And I think about it for my biggest.
And I have now since turned into one of these individuals where, you see people recording themselves at the gym and taking pictures of themselves at the gym, and occasionally, I should say, I've become one of these individuals. I send them to the will so they critique my form. Not for any other reason.
But, I think that the hurdle to maybe in some board myself and for this app to work, but at the same time, I think that's.
Yeah, I think it's a choice, and I think we want to build a community that like is able to show that that's okay and people can do that, and you can do it in your home. And if you want to be able to start at the fundamental level, we're hopefully going to build out structures that show you need to get to a way of movement before you add weight and exercises, if you're starting at 0. And by 0, I mean like if you get off the couch and that's the most movement you do, you don't need to really necessarily go to a gym yet. You can start by learning how to move at home with this app that you have, and you have full control, and you can see your own progress before you go to a gym or before you take it to the next level as an option. Not saying you shouldn't go to the gym. I think that all people should go in. I very much understand why some people don't want to.
Yeah.
And I don't judge or critique why they would or wouldn't want to. I mean, I can see why some people wouldn't want to, so having the ability to have it at home is really critical.
And for those of you sitting at home saying that I'll never be that person that records myself at the gym,
Was that guy?
No, that's a muscle you have to flex. It's the same thing with being on camera. Like, I never thought I'd be putting myself on camera. It's all I've done in the past 6 months, and
He doesn't even train people anymore.
no, I don't. I'm just a social media personality and a podcaster. But, I mean, I've been recording myself in the gym now for like 7 years. And to be fair, when I started, I was at Pitt, and like there's all athletes in there, and you're not working with, I know everybody. Now, my response has always been when someone asks me why I'm doing that, it's to watch my form.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be like 80% of why I do it. The other 20% is because I want to see what I look like lifting, and I want to post it somewhere. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And it really comes down to just, I don't know. It's really a concern about what you think people are going to think. But at the end of the day, it's probably going to come up like one time.
Yeah.
It's a safety thing at the end of the day. Like, you should look at how you look, because people are bad.
Why there's mirrors in a gym?
Right. People are bad at proprioception, like just the awareness of your body around anything, like, space and time or whatever. And like moving weight, you have to have that. And that's something that I feel like I'm good at. And it's crazy to me to hear that people don't have that. Like, that's a thing. Like, I don't know if it's a coordination thing or what, but just like, that's not something that you get, like not everyone has like their attributes when they did their creative player wasn't there. But the guy that I've had people come to me.
No, we're not going to just glaze past that. When they did their creative player.
Yeah, like Madden 05, you had to make your player.
You can't be 99s.
Yeah, no one got 99. Not everybody got 99 in proprioception, and so
We did not get the height.
no, we didn't get the height, but we got the body awareness. And that's
we did.
That's all that matters. And the biceps too, exactly.
Biceps, yeah.
But it's genetic.
It's not.
I can't get them no matter how many girls I do.
It's all time. You'll get there. But the hell was I saying?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, no. I mean, I know somebody came to me one time and was like, "I can't figure out how to do a lunge," and I was like, "What do you mean? You can't figure out how to do a lunge?" Like, there's a video right there, and like, but for some reason, there's just sometimes it's just a different thing. It's just coordination wise, like it's like maybe the balance is off or whatever, and then people just don't know how it should feel. Number one, and I think having something like this, where it's giving you feedback in real time of like, you do it the correct way, and then it's going to show you right there that was right, then that's going to create the connection of like what it needs to feel like and look like, and now you have all three combined, and then you're actually how you move.
My biggest thing that I need it for is Bulgarian split squats.
They're hard.
I cannot stay stabilized doing those.
We were just talking about those, Kyle.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It takes me probably 5 minutes to do like 5 reps because I'm trying to just keep my.
Yes, you gotta get some Metcons.
It's a mess. No, I do barefoot. I do.
Oh yeah, well that's fine too.
Yeah, so we want to be able to implement movement patterns first, and like a movement pattern test, and that's, a thing that's beyond my personal expertise on exactly what is best to make as a, hey, get this kind of movement pattern, you are good to start implementing weight on this kind of lift. But we do want to get that in there so that people understand, like, it's starting from foundational level up, that these will play into you learning how to squat heavier if you learn movements better correctly at a lower level, and not necessarily lighter weight or no weight, but it just means fundamentals, like getting some balance, getting some mobility, getting some flexibility, and then applying it into a lift, and then you're prepared for that lift a little bit more.
No, I think it sounds awesome. I can't wait until it's maybe in a beta. Hook your boy up. That's
I plan to hook you both up.
Yeah. But no, it sounds awesome. I definitely could probably still use it. I definitely could have used it probably like 9 months ago. But Will and I just worked out together for the first time, and he pointed out some things that I thought I was doing upright rows or bent over rows like correctly, and here it turns out my back looks like rainbow. That's what I was doing. So just that kind of feedback, not having to have somebody there and do it. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to the release. So let your boy when it's ready. Can't believe
That sucked.
That's amazing. That's a throwback.
Yeah,
you are 34 for sure. Yeah.
Old man yelling at the clouds. But you should have saw, like, I mean, you got to watch the other podcast when with Emily where they're.
Oh yeah, she was cooking you.
I was getting. Anyway, anything else we want to cover? Anything else that you want to talk about with Pose or anything?
No, if you do want to check out the app, we do have an Instagram. Pose Fitness app is the Instagram, and then it's at posefitness.io is the website. So if you want to read more information, we have a white paper. We are in, so you guys all know, we're in rounds of investment with some people right now in partnership. So it is not releasable yet, but we're hoping to get to a releasable stage, hopefully by this year as a testing.
Yeah, maybe have you back on.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm on the Instagram, so look for me.
He's on the Instagram. Are you on Threads yet?
I am on Threads, but
on Threads.
that stuff dipped really quick. Like they lost like half their users in like a week or something.
Yeah.
I didn't even check.
I might stick with it. I don't know, but it's just doesn't seem like it's working that well. Yeah.
Vine was great. Vine was great.
Vine was hot. Yeah. Vine was sick.
Start out behind the camera, Kyle.
Bring them out.
Ethan, where can they find you?
Yeah, so they can find me at Ethan Merritt Official on Instagram, and then linking out to anything with Pose, it is Pose Fitness app on Instagram, and then it's posefitness.io for our website. We have some white papers. You can contact us about it if you are interested in inquiring about it.
Well, where can I find you? Can you do it without the business?
No, I'm gonna look at it.
No chance.
You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at willmarshall_1, and my website marshallfitnesstraining.com.
And you can find me at Markety25 on Instagram, and that's really all that matters. And thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, guys.